Hey guys, it's Atriox here. Welcome back to another Mortal Kombat video. So today I thought we'd take a look at Li Mei and just like what role I can see her going forward, seeing as there's a lot of we're doing some videos thinking about like the future prospect of like Mortal Kombat and where it could go in terms of like what roles we could see and then just what stuff is happening in Mortal Kombat, because like Mortal Kombat has this thing where it always like uses like stuff from intros and like just general story stuff to kind of propel it forward, even if it's not like always consistent. There's always something like that happens in games, and then they go back and they fix it in later games. So that's what we're doing today. We're gonna check out to see if this is a possibility. What possibilities are allowed to like someone like Li Mei, but in this new timeline, seeing as like she's like looking like she might be one of the pillars in Outworld, so it could be cool to see this like how her role unfolds. But anyways, I've always liked Li Mei. Honestly, like Li Mei was probably one of my favorites of the 3D era characters, especially because like the stuff that she could do and like her backstory. Like her moves were so crazy because some of it just never really made sense. Like her cartwheel kicks where her body would contort into these weird positions. It was just cool to see. And like I just liked her all her moveset. Her moveset was like really fun to play. And I remember like when Li Mei got announced, I was so hyped for Li Mei being announced. And actually, I remember during the beta, I was playing Li Mei.
Umgadi are warrior priestesses, selected from the firstborn daughters of Outworld. From infancy, they are trained to defend the royal family.
I will prevail, Earthrealmer. This fight is more important to me than you can ever know.
Raiden? Hold on, let me just switch the screen real quick.
Li Mei used to lead the Umgadi. It was on her watch that the princess's father was murdered.
Oh, that's awesome!
Surrender.
Like that was the main character I played during the beta too. So it was, I really enjoyed like my experience with the beta and then just like Li Mei in general. She's just a fun character, especially with the backstory. But I'm not gonna lie, when Mortal Kombat 1 first got announced, I didn't think there were gonna be this many 3D era characters, because when you think about like NRS games, they don't really use 3D era characters. And like this game alone has Rico, Havoc, Ashura, Natara, Darius, Mavado, and Chameleon. So it was cool to see. I mean, I guess there has been instances where it did add some 3D era characters to some NRS games, which I think, yeah, it's Mortal Kombat 11. Mortal Kombat 11, they added Frost and they added Fujin. I say Fujin, but the thing is, like, I don't know, because like depending on how you see Mortal Kombat 4, it could sway your opinion, right? Because like I feel like Fujin, like, okay, so Mortal Kombat 4 it felt more like a 2D game with 3D elements to it, in my opinion. I think some people consider it 3D era, but I guess it really just depends. It's up to you to decide, you know, which one you feel it's like most close to. But for me, it just felt like more of a. I put it in the list just because I felt like he did exist in the 3D era to some degree as well. So it makes sense to put him in here. So seeing Frost and Fujin back in the game, it was cool. It was cool to see, and then them just going fully ham on 3D era characters in this game was actually pretty sick. Because it's like, it almost feels like a love letter to the fans of Mortal Kombat 1, and it felt like it was something that kind of needed to happen. And yeah, I just thought it was really cool to see. But before we get too deep into the video, I just want you guys quickly just leave a like and hit the sub button if you haven't already, because like it really helps. I'm really trying to grow this channel, like doing these type of unique scenarios and stuff like that. And I'm going to start putting some more Mortal Kombat like videos too. Like I do want to start doing some gameplay videos as well, but I don't know, like I feel like every content creator does that on Mortal Kombat. That's why like I low-key just like kind of don't do it, but we'll see. It depends if that's what you guys want to see or not. But anyways, it'll really help out. But before we dive into her role, I think it's important to understand like where she came from in terms of like, you know, what she went through the original timeline, and then like when the timeline was reset due to the events of Mortal Kombat 9. So let's dive into that. Li Mei had always been an interesting character, making her debut in Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance. She hails from the small village Sun Do, which had been enslaved by Kano under orders from Quan Chi. The village was ordered to build a fortress that would be the main base for the Deadly Alliance. The fortress would be the perfect location for them as they transplanted the souls of warriors to the undefeatable Dragon King's army. However, Li Mei wouldn't stand for her people being exploited, so she fought back. She attacked Kano all by herself. But before anything could happen, Quan Chi intervened after seeing Li Mei's warrior spirit, and he decided to offer her a chance to win her people's freedom. Participate in a Mortal Kombat tournament hosted by the Deadly Alliance. If she won, her people would be free to go. However, if she lost, she would be forced to serve the Deadly Alliance and her people would remain slaves forever. Seeing no other option, Li Mei ultimately decided to join the tournament, and she actually won the tournament. But if there's one constant in Mortal Kombat, it's that you can't trust a sorcerer. The purpose of the tournament was to find the souls of warriors suitable to inhabit the Dragon King's army. Li Mei's soul would be the last one needed to complete the army. So unfortunately, Li Mei had failed to free her people, and now she was doomed to serve the Deadly Alliance forever.
Li Mei had been promised that her people would be freed from enslavement if she could win the tournament held by the Deadly Alliance. Now that she had emerged victorious, the true purpose behind the tournament was finally revealed to her. Her soul would be the last one Shang Tsung needed to completely revive the Dragon King's lost army. Her people would never be freed, and Li Mei herself would remain trapped inside the mummified remains of a dead soldier, cursed to serve the Deadly Alliance forever.
But she wouldn't remain trapped as an undead warrior for long, as Master Baraicha would free her from her bondage. But something had happened while she was trapped just for that brief moment. The experience changed her in ways she couldn't comprehend yet. Baraicha ultimately took her in, and after he nursed her back to full health, he decided to train her. I actually wasn't going to talk about the deception because she would end up betraying the forces of light to side with Onaga. But considering how things were kind of connected, the change she felt in being freed, pretty much right after she got freed in Deadly Alliance, she felt the change, and it wasn't to the deception she found out what it was. It was Onaga, who she couldn't ignore the pull. So she ultimately ends up betraying her allies because of the kind of connection she felt towards Onaga due to the being attached to the Dragon King soldier.
An alliance had been formed of warriors from vastly different origins, but with a similar goal: to defeat Onaga. Li Mei marched uneasily into battle against the Dragon King. The closer she got to him, the more she came to understand which side was truly deserving of victory. Li Mei turned on her former allies and gave her emperor the time he needed to finish merging the Kamidogu. The Dragon King was now all-powerful. He had the means to control the universe, to make and unmake as he saw fit. Li Mei watched in delight as the Elder Gods fled before his might. Onaga then transformed her into his queen to be forever at his side. He had given her power beyond anything she ever imagined. Together, they will rule the One Realm and slay the last of the Elder Gods.
Like I said, I wasn't going to talk about it, but the endings were kind of linked together, so I thought at the very least I should mention it here. Li Mei's story would actually come to a tragic end, as she would be the first killed in the events of Armageddon. Pretty much the opening of Armageddon's intro, she would be the first one dead. She would be killed by Hotaru.
Critical point has finally been reached. It was foreseen that combatants would one day grow too powerful and too numerous. If left unchecked, their intensifying combat would weaken and shatter the realms and bring about the apocalypse.
A lot of the stories back then in the 3D era was kind of dark, and a lot of them ended up in tragedy, especially during the Deception era. So, but I think that's like one of the eras that a lot of people like the most because of how dark and gruesome it was back in the day compared to like how it is now. So I hope one day they go back to being dark again because, that was such a good time for Mortal Kombat. Anyways, the next time we would see Li Mei is in Mortal Kombat X. And she seemed to have had a different fate this time around, as she leads her people to Earthrealm, as the war between Kotal Khan and Melina was getting to be too much for even Outworlders. So she seeks asylum with the Special Forces. She gets very little screen time here though, but what we do see is she seems a lot older in this iteration than what we saw in Mortal Kombat Deadly Alliance, which was probably due to Shao Kahn and Shang Tsung being dead in this timeline, and with Scorpion finding out about Quan Chi killing his family and clan just like much later on, it kind of changed like what happened, because Quan Chi wouldn't have been on the run from Scorpion, so he wouldn't have had a chance to stumble upon the tomb of the Dragon King's undefeatable army. And without Shang Tsung to transplant the souls, the army would never come to be, which was kind of all around good for Li Mei in this timeline. And but when it comes to Outworlders, it's hard to really identify age as they live incredibly long lives, but 25 years is enough time to see her become an established leader, because like that's what the difference in time from Mortal Kombat 9 to Mortal Kombat X, and then when you consider like Mortal Kombat 4 to Deadly Alliances, I think it was like the 2-year difference. Like, so you can pretty much just kind of tell it's like 25 years, just like most of the characters in Mortal Kombat. But like I said, it's enough time for her to be an established leader. Honestly, she seems to welcome fighting, which kind of like makes me think that she's already been trained with Master Baraicho or someone around that kind of like the same kind of pedigree. Honestly, her main purpose in the story was to expose Kano unknowingly to Sonya.
This is Li Mei. She seeks asylum for her people in Earthrealm.
Our village, Sundo, was the epicenter of a fierce battle. We barely escaped with our lives.
Such is war. I mean, no offense, but you Outworlders kind of live for that, right?
This was different. The rebels, Melina, had a weapon unlike anything. Entire battalions erased. It was not honorable, not combat.
Tell me more about the weapon.
A talisman, gold, with a center jewel. Melina wields its crimson energy without precision.
Well, that's good then. Not now, Sergeant Cage.
It is enough that she possesses it. It turns the tide in her favor. The Emperor grows desperate, and those caught in the middle pay the price.
If this talisman is what I suspect it to be, we may all pay a price.
We talking about Shinnok's amulet?
Can't be. The base, the vault, your wardings. SF, Shaolin, no way anyone can get past all that.
I must be certain.
Well, this is cozy.
You remind me of an Earthrealmer who crossed over with us. He also found humor in everything.
Handsome guy, right?
He was an Earthrealmer. One of his eyes glowed red.
Which, when you really think about it, it's kind of the irony, because considering that he's a refugee among her people, when you consider the original timeline and how he was the reason for the enslavement of Li Mei and her people. So, moving on to Mortal Kombat 1. I feel like Li Mei is one of those characters that I believe changed for the better. Finally free from enslavement and free from being stuck between two warring powers. Like, she no longer was like a person that was being controlled or just had like, she actually had like her freedom in this game, and now she was free to do what she wanted. And her story is like vastly different, obviously. This time she is much older than the previous iterations. Like I said, age is kind of hard to decipher, but using context clues and like intros and story elements, you could kind of like piece together how old she is, or at least like right around the age she was. When it comes to getting into Outworlders, if I'm being honest, like it's hard to determine, but Liu Kang has a dialogue with Raiden saying that the last millennium of Queen Sindel's rule has been a golden age, which kind of implies it's been at the very least 1,000 years since she began ruling by herself.
I know I'm to fight Melina, but will I also face Tanya?
By tradition, you should not. If you did, you would be tested.
Why?
Umgadi, like Tanya, are warrior priestesses, selected from the firstborn daughters of Outworld. From infancy, they are trained to defend the royal family.
Outworld must see much conflict if the Empress needs such protection.
Its past has been difficult, though the last 1,000 years of Empress Sindel's reign have been a true golden age. The memories of that strife still linger.
After the death of King Jared. Now this is just assuming that like she took power. When she took power, this is what Liu Kang's talking about. So if not, then like it's kind of hard to determine. Depending on like when King Jared died, you can kind of tell. But we know she's at least 500 years old because of another intro she had with Kung Lao.
I also met the great Kung Lao.
Is there anyone in Outworld that hasn't?
So like I think that's the best clue to determine her age, because like she tells Kung Lao that she met the great Kung Lao, so which obviously indicates that she's at least 500 years old, because the Great Kung Lao, obviously, if you know anything about the Mortal Kombat story, you know he was around 500 years before the current generation of fighter. So she's at least as old, either as old as Sindel, considering that she considers her I think she's as old as Sindel, because the way that their interactions are in the story, it seems like they're friends. It doesn't seem like, you know, she was just like someone that worked for her. So like she's at least as old as Sindel, and in the way that Li Mei talks about her is like a best friend kind of like way. So you can at least tell that's kind of like what I mean by when it comes to age, just context clues in it, kind of consider that. But anyways, moving on. Li Mei started out as a promising young Umgadi, rising through the ranks and then ultimately getting the favor of King Jared and Queen Sindel, where she would end up befriending Sindel as she became in charge of the royal family's protection. Unfortunately for Li Mei, she failed to protect King Jared and was blamed by the Umgadi. It's probably safe to assume that Titan Shang Tsung has something to do with that, because like, you know, in order for it to process it the way like he wanted to process it in terms of getting like Shang Tsung and Quan Chi and just setting everything up, I felt like Jared would get in the way of that, and he needed Shang Tsung to have the Queen Sindel's ear in order to pretty much continue with his plan. That's my whole thing. I think that's why he ended up in kind of like getting in the way. But anyways, unable to accept her fate, she quit Umgadi and wandered around friendless and alone. She was lost, abandoned by those she considered friends. What was she to do? She seeked a new purpose, and she ultimately found it in the Sundo's police force, where again she would rise through the ranks, where she would become the capital's first constable. However, even with her new position, it did not make her feel any better about King Jared's death. It haunted her to this day. I think ultimately that's what made her help Liu Kang, because she felt like he would understand kind of like what he was going through. And you know, King Jared and Liu Kang were really good friends. So I think that's why she kind of like ultimately accepted it, because like there was in the story, it kind of feels weird how fast she accepts Liu Kang's help. So I kind of like think that's the whole reason for that, and like kind of like why she decided to trust him so easily.
Return home, Lord Liu Kang. I am to let no one pass.
I must see Her Majesty. She must call off her attack on Earthrealm.
Her decision was unwise, but she no longer seeks my counsel, and I doubt she's interested in yours.
The Empress has been deceived. Shang Tsung and General Shao have fomented this crisis as a means to steal her throne.
General Shao? I knew he was hiding his true intentions. But join Shang Tsung? I knew he couldn't be trusted. Were I still Umgadi, he would never have breathed the same air as the Empress. My palace sources told me he arrived out of nowhere and immediately had the Empress's ear.
He gained her trust by treating Princess Melina's condition. Tragically, she is afflicted with Tarkat disease.
Tarkat? The Empress must be beside herself. If Shang Tsung found a treatment, no wonder she embraced him.
I have shared this with no one. I trust that you, of all people, will keep this secret.
Of course. Were it made public, it would bring down the royal family.
Li Mei, Empress Sindel needs our help. Will you join me?
Emperor Jared's death, the pain it caused Empress Sindel, has always haunted me. I failed the royal family once. I won't do so again.
With his help, she was able to redeem herself and earn the forgiveness of the royal family. However, it wouldn't last long, as Queen Sindel would end up losing her life, protecting everyone from the evil Sindel.
Your tenacity is to be admired. Until our last breaths are taken, as long as blood flows through our veins, we are not beaten. Noble sentiments, which in the end matter little. None of you will leave here alive.
Mother, you can't go. Not yet.
It's my time, dear. At least we had a few hours more.
I will cherish them.
Mother.
You are now Empress. Rule well.
I will, Mother. Father and Katana will help me.
Of course.
Honestly, she was treated horribly by the royal family. I think the only one in the royal family that didn't treat her bad was, I think, Katana. But then Katana didn't really talk much, and I feel like she didn't really talk much now that I think about, like, in the story. So, you know, I guess she wouldn't have had it. And I think it will go against Katana's character, because Katana's not that kind of person. Like, she's more like a caring person. So even if something like that happened, I don't think she would have blamed Jared the way that, like, Melina and Sindel, who have more dominant, stronger personalities than someone like Katana. Let's talk about the role, right? Honestly, I could say something obvious like, oh, she's gonna be the one keeping the peace, like a striker type role, but that would be lazy, and I don't want to do that here. So if I had my way, I think there's an intro. I think there's about 3 things that could end up happening. So there's a intro where Li Mei is talking to Liu Kang, and she basically says she regrets not meeting her parents, and Liu Kang says that's not gonna happen in the future.
I regret having never known my parents.
Who says you will not in the future?
So this to me could be a hint at a possibility of her reuniting with her family and maybe the next game or something like that. Now that she's no longer an Umgadi, this is actually a possibility for her. Even though she feels like she's Umgadi still, I don't think that would be enough for her to pull away from not wanting to see her parents, because she had an opportunity to go back to Umgadi and she chose not to do it. I think we could also see her having some kind of interaction with Boraicho. It would be criminal not to include him, considering what he did for her in the original timeline. Maybe they would be like friends or students of the same master, something like that. You could do something like that. It would be fine, because I don't feel like it's that much of a change. Although I think Boraicho still could be older, so maybe they still have like a master-student kind of relationship, which would be cool too. Like, honestly, I prefer that, but you know, I would love to have them have an interaction in Mortal Kombat 2 if they could. I don't know if she will stay the first constable. If I'm being honest, I think she'll have a bigger role in Katana's army at some point. Because of Katana's ending, hinting at her struggling to get her men to listen. Although I think it does say that eventually they do begin to listen to her. Maybe it has something to do with Li Mei helping her kind of like understand how to train and how to lead people. But it's kind of hard to say without having any idea of what's going to happen with MK1. Will they make another story DLC focused around Outworld, or will we just have to wait to the next Mortal Kombat game? Who knows? But that's kind of the fun part about theory crafting possible outcomes. Do I think they'll implement any good choices? Honestly, probably not. But I'm hoping that changes with the next game. Like, I'm not 100% on board with a lot of the stories that they've been putting out recently. I think they just kind of been, I don't know. It just feels like they're taking inspiration from Marvel, and like Marvel doesn't really have the best track record right now. I think that like, just because you take inspiration for something doesn't mean that it should hold you hostage in creating a bad story or creating a good story with good character development. And while some characters in Mortal Kombat 1 have great character development, there are some characters that go the opposite way. Characters like Natara, for example, where I feel like the whole game made Natara look horrible and just completely changed her character for the worst, compared to like the original timeline. And I've talked about it in the past about Natara, but you know, eventually we're going to talk about how MK1 kind of destroyed Natara's character, and I kind of want to talk about that in a separate video. But anyways, yeah, so those are the things I think that could happen. I think Li Mei will get to meet her parents, a possible interaction with Master Boraicho, and finally her helping Katana lead Outworld's people, or an army, just kind of like keeping the peace with them. Because I think that her being a police officer is just too small of a role for a character like Li Mei, and especially because she feels like more of a central character in the story in terms of like the Outworld's people, because of just her role, anyways. And we could even sprinkle a romance somewhere in there, because since Kung Lao, since Mortal Kombat loves adding romance into their story, even though the personalities are kind of different, I want to see my boy Lao get someone for once, and not just him be a mockery the entire, just kind of him not being a mockery the entire game, which they've been having him be in every other game, which is kind of annoying for me, being a Kung Lao fan. Anyways, it'd be almost like a new iteration of Liu Kang and Katana. But what do you guys think? I don't know. Like I liked Li Mei's story a lot in this one. And I think her role, like I said, one of those three things could happen, and I think that she could honestly end up meeting her parents, Master Barashite and Katana. Like I could see any of those coming to fruition, or like maybe even all three. It just depends on like where they go with the Mortal Kombat 2 story, because like I don't know. I hope they learn from Mortal Kombat 1, because I felt like they rushed the Mortal Kombat 1 story, and I felt like the addition of adding Titans so way too early on kind of like was a detriment to Mortal Kombat 1 story overall. If they would have waited to like the story, they could have started that Titan stuff in the story DLC and just kept because they already built they already built the world where they had Quan Chi, Shang Tsung, and Shao Kahn as the enemy with Raiko, and then you just bring in Titan Shang Tsung, which is kind of annoying. Like they were going in a good direction. I felt like the story was good, and they just put all of the Earthrealm warriors on the back burner, and then Liu Kang comes back to being the central focus of the story. So I don't know, like it's weird. I feel like they need to take more time, or like I said, get some more writers to help fill in these roles, so it's not just one person or two people, because like they need more ideas. They need some more ideas. Like I think they should just pay more attention to the creators in the Mortal Kombat community and to see what the fans want to see, because there are many people talk about what they would like to see for story and gameplay wise. I think they should have more of a pulse on the community as a whole, if I'm being honest, because there are points where I feel like they're just kind of deciding what they want versus seeing what people want. You know what I mean? I don't know if that makes sense. Like if they I know they watch some people's videos, but I don't think it should just be the bigger creators. I think they should have a whole department that is just, or not even a department, but a team that just keeps their eye on what the community wants. You know what I mean? Like just listen to videos about creators and just seeing like what they think could be better, like in terms of moves, and just creating legacy. Make a legacy game where like the game doesn't change too much from one game to the next, and you just add like little things and tweak little things, because like when you create new systems from the ground up, it takes away from story details you could be putting in that make the game better. It takes away from game modes that you take away to make it better. Like I wish they would do this, and they would just continue on. And I think eventually I'm going to make a video talking about that. Like I said, that's going to be part of the Mortal Kombat 2 video. That video is going to be completely with that, because I want to talk about like having a legacy game going forward. But anyways, guys, I know this video is probably a little bit longer than I initially planned it to be. It was a lot to talk about with Li Mei, and Li Mei is one of my favorite characters in the series, so I kind of wanted to really talk about her. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I'll catch you guys in the next one. I'm out. Peace.